broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing aftershows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows. Interviewing celebrities and showrunners. And bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Hey guys, welcome into another Dodgers Wrap 360 right here on AFTERBUZZ TV. Why are you waving into my camera?
Oh. I thought we were saying hello to all the people that are
I mean, if we weren't live streaming right now on this Dodgers postseason, are you drunk?
No, I'm good. You're the one with the bloodshot eyes.
I'm Bobby DeMuro. That's Mike Conley, behaving like an asshole.
Keeping it consistent.
You were doing what, from a Mets fan's perspective, Chase Utley did the other night. How's that for a little segue connection?
I would say that is a really rocky segue. From a Rockies fan, I guess that makes sense.
I'm doing the best I can. We're talking games 1 and 2 of the NLDS right now. We're live streaming this at 6:17 p.m. on Sunday, October the 11th. So if you're watching this live, I am at Bobby DeMuro. He does not have a Twitter. So if you want to tweet me right now at Bobby DeMuro, or tweet us at AfterBuzz TV if you have questions, comments, whatever about the Dodgers,
that'd be great.
Send them. We love them. If you're not watching live, we get a lot of comments now on YouTube. You can rate us on iTunes. You can comment all week on YouTube. We're going to have a lot of stuff you guys are going to want to comment on. So if you comment during the week, I take a look at that. He does not understand the internet, but I take a look at that. And
he lets me know about it,
and we talk back. Yeah, he's going to get an email address one of these years, but I can talk with you. So please do comment and talk. We're obviously going to talk more NLDS next week. I'll tell you more about that later because the schedule might change a little bit. But let's talk games 1 and 2. Game 2 is the one everybody wants to talk about. It's the Chase Utley slide. We're going to put it on hold for just a minute because we got to cover game 1 first. I want to get game 1 out of the way.
Look at you, all chronological.
I'd rather go forward chronological than reverse, because if we talk about game 2 now, we're going to lose the entire show to game 2 and the slide and that inning and controversy and Twitter and all this stuff. So let's get game 1 out of the way.
Is there such a thing as reverse chronology?
Yes. Reverse chronological order is where you go in order, but you go backwards. So like instead of 1930, 31, 32, you go 32, 31, 30.
Oh, for real?
Yes.
Okay. Sounds good. Let's do it the regular chronological.
Game 1, Dodgers lose 3-1.
They do.
Jacob deGrom, very, very good. Clayton Kershaw, pretty damn good himself. A little wild, had some command issues, bit him in the ass in the 7th inning. Did Clayton Kershaw get the playoff monkey off his back in Game 1, or does he still have more to prove? Or, as I'm seeing some people say, was this not that great of a start?
It was a good start. I mean, he pitched well enough to win, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And I think that this has kind of been the problem that we've seen for the Dodgers kind of creep up now and again in not being able to get the clutch hit at the clutch time. You know? And that's kind of been the deal this year with the Dodgers, where Kershaw and Greinke have had to be flawless in order for them to win games. I mean, look at that stretch Greinke was on where like he didn't win a game or like for like 6 starts. I don't have the numbers, but it was a ridiculous thing where he was getting no run support. But I thought it was a good enough start. You know, he did come a little bit unglued there in the 7th with all the walks and stuff. I still would have left him in.
Me too.
You know,
I think that's. You know, Don Mattingly takes a lot of heat from a certain segment of the Dodgers population. Another segment says, hey, division winner, you can't, you know, what are you going to do? I'm usually in that second segment. He's managing a very good team. He might not be the best manager. He's got a hell of a payroll, but he's also not atrocious. You're not going to fire him right now. But there are some decisions you do have to second guess, and one of them to me is Pedro Baez to face David Wright. Righty, I get it. Fresh reliever in an important situation, I get it. Clayton Kershaw had thrown, 114, 113 pitches? Yeah. I understand. But in the playoffs, if this is August, you don't want him to throw 113. You're going to take him out. This is the playoffs. Even if it's the NLDS, he can probably throw 130. Yeah. I know that's asking a lot, but a horse like Kershaw, he wants to do that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And he's earned the right to get out of that inning.
You put your best pitcher. Who is your best pitcher? If it's not Kershaw in that moment, the only best pitcher out of the bullpen is Kenley Jansen. Yeah. There's no other answer, and managers do not want to bring their closer in the 7th inning. Now, arguably, that would have been a Kenley Jansen spot. That's the spot to use a closer when a game needs to be closed and it's not the 9th. You know,
you and I talk about this all the time, and I love it. And you know, this is why I have such a favorable opinion of the Rangers, because Jeff Bannister is going to be that manager.
They do that
breaks the ice on that,
and they should. And this was, and I know that they were tied at the same time, so Kenley Jansen wouldn't have technically been closing the game. It was a tie game, 1-1 at that point. But you still had a situation where you needed an out, and you didn't get it from Pedro Baez. He did it one batter too late. Just let Clayton Kershaw, let your best pitcher pitch against one of their most important hitters, and let your best face their best. And if your best doesn't do it, hey, tip the cap. But when Pedro Baez doesn't do it, it leaves a real bad taste.
Yeah, and you watch the game, right?
Yeah.
During the telecast, too, once they made that change, Ron Darling even mentioned this, and I was shocked by it. He's like looking at Baez's stats and stuff, and he's like, "Oh, only chink in the armor is that he gets hit at a 340 clip by the first batter he faces." I'm like, what? Does Don Mattingly not have this information? Because
and look, I mean, Pedro Baez
that number's about 357 now.
Yes, it's 1,000 in the playoffs. He hasn't had a terrible season. He's been good a lot. I mean, the whole bullpen struggled at times, so he's scuffled, but he's been fine. I don't distrust Pedro Baez.
Yeah.
If you had to say, half good, half bad in the bullpen, he's on the good half.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you put him in this situation in game 1.
No, not over Kershaw.
Clayton Kershaw strikes out 11 guys in 6 2/3. I know he walked 3 in the last inning. Strikes out 11 in 6 2/3. So he gets 20 outs. 11 of which are strikeouts, and you don't believe he can roll the dice and even get a strikeout or any old out. He just needed one, but get any old out against a guy like David Wright. It's disappointing.
Yeah, and it was eerily similar to the situation 1 year ago versus the Cardinals.
Yeah,
where he left him in, and Kershaw got hit.
That's a good point.
So I'm wondering, do you think that affected Mattingly at all? Because to me, it's apples and oranges, because Carpenter was who he was facing last year, and Carpenter was absolutely creaming him that game.
Yeah.
He really had him locked in. Wright couldn't touch him the other night.
Yeah.
So it's like, what does this guy have to do to earn the right to pitch himself out of this inning?
And I think, too, it's if you're going to get hit and if you're going to go down, I would rather leave your ace in too long than bring him out too prematurely. Yeah. It's a different conversation with Brett Anderson. If Brett Anderson had been there in the exact same situation, you'd say, take him out. He probably would have come out batters earlier. But you say, take him out, let a righty face a righty, totally 100%, I get it. This is not Brett Anderson. This is one of the very best pitchers in all of baseball. You want him on the field for one more hitter, then you go to bullpen in the 8th in a tie game, or who knows, maybe in an alternate universe, the Dodgers take the lead. Who knows what happens?
Yeah.
Then you go forward with the bullpen.
Yeah, and it's also not only is it Clayton Kershaw, but it's not like you're going to a pen that has been absolutely locked. This isn't the 1988 Oakland Athletics. This isn't the 2014 Kansas City Royals.
Yeah.
They don't have that lockdown bullpen. So we've seen it over 162. The biggest question mark over maybe a third starter is the bullpen. It's been a big question mark. So why on this stage would you go over your horse, go into a guy that might get it done for you? It's saddening. And if they lose this, I think the heads are going to roll. If they lose this series, Mattingly is gone.
And that's now the conversation. And he won't be fired because of Pedro Baez, but that'll be one of many things that probably add up to it.
Right.
If they lose this series, I hate to say it, but I think then you probably have the right sounds like a weird way to say it, but you know what I'm saying. You probably have enough cause to let Don Mattingly go because it hadn't happened in the playoffs. Right. They can still win the series. It's 1-1. A lot of stuff can happen.
It's true.
But you really wanted to leave LA 2-0. You almost left LA 0-2. We'll talk about game 2 in a minute here. That was lucky, let's be real. But you wanted to leave LA 2-0. You leave 1-1. That's dangerous. You got 2 games in New York, and New York needs just 2 games.
Right.
So you don't play that well on the road. I go back to, if you're gonna bring in a reliever in that situation, bring in your best. And your best is Kenley Jansen. And if you're too old school to say, well, I don't want to throw my closer unless we got a lead and it's the 9th inning, which is dumb in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I understand you want to set the roll in July, that's fine. But in October, when you absolutely need a win, these are 5-game series. You can't overcome a loss sometimes.
Yeah.
When you absolutely need a win, bring in your best reliever or don't bring in a reliever at all.
Yeah,
you know.
I think it's kind of overrated now. The specialist, era we live in now.
Unless you're Bruce Bochy. Credit to the Giants, they do specialists very well. Jeremy Affeldt had a terrible year this year, but Javier Lopez, they know how to do specialists.
Yeah.
Almost everybody else,
Yeah, if you have the horses,
yeah,
by all means, get it lined up, but just don't put a guy in there because there's a space in your perfect template of where there has to go a guy. Make him earn it, you know? And it's like, give those guys chances earlier in the year, but it's like now that it's coming down to it, I like Pedro Baez's arm and all that stuff too, but sometimes it's just it has too much of the play.
And I think Pedro Baez could turn into a very good reliever. Yeah. Like, he's shown flashes this year for sure. He's a power reliever. He's what you want. He's just another one of those guys. Teams stockpile these dudes who throw, 95, 96, 97, and he's kind of one of those guys. But even if Baez had gotten David Wright out and the game had changed and the Dodgers had won and would have been, hey, they won, this is great, they're up 1-0, I still would have been like, you probably should have left Kershaw. Numbers-wise, you probably should have left Kershaw in. Kershaw is going to get David Wright out more times in that situation than anybody else in the bullpen will, maybe this side of Kenley Jansen.
Yeah. And let's not lose sight of all this and make it all about Kershaw, but you have to realize that the righty Kershaw was pitching over the other side.
That's
DeGrom was amazing.
So let me tell you something.
Yeah.
So the Rockies played the Mets, obviously, home and home this year at Citi Field and Coors, and they interviewed all the Rockies players after this because the Mets rotation's just stacked. And they interviewed Carlos Gonzalez, and they said, the Mets waxed Colorado at both places. I think won 6 out of 7. And they interviewed Carlos Gonzalez after, and they said, man, what do you think about, Mets and Matt Harvey's great, and John Neese is a 5 and he's decent, and then you got Syndergaard and he's throwing 100. And I will never forget, Carlos Gonzalez is like, you guys don't get it. Jacob deGrom is the best pitcher I have ever seen. Ever. And this is Cargo when he was hitting a home run every at bat.
Right.
And Jacob deGrom is making him look stupid. And hearing that and thinking, Jacob deGrom must be damn good for Carlos Gonzalez to say that now. Yeah. And then watching deGrom do what he did to the Dodgers, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Well, and then, of course, what he did in the All-Star game, it's that's where most people will okay, he becomes a household name. And anybody who didn't watch the All-Star game, now he's a household name because he just absolutely shut down the Dodgers. But what I didn't know, what I learned in the telecast, is he broke in as a shortstop.
Yeah,
that's insane.
That's a lot of these guys. These pitchers are better athletes than you think.
Yeah,
they still can't hit for beans, but they're better athletes than you think. Greinke aside, that man can hit. Yeah, Jacob deGrom's special, and that's the thing. I mean, the Mets, for as weird as that inning was with Kershaw and the 3 walks and the clutch hit, besides that inning, the Mets got past first base once the entire game, and that was the solo homer from Daniel Murphy in the 4th or whatever.
Right.
They weren't hitting the ball at all, and
that was a bomb.
And to Hatcher and to Hatcher's credit afterwards, they didn't hit the ball in the bullpen afterwards.
Yeah.
So, and Peralta, the Mets didn't do anything offensively. The Dodgers didn't do anything offensively, and Jacob deGrom just slightly outclassed Clayton Kershaw. And Kershaw then, sputtered with the walks at the very end when it mattered, but Jacob deGrom's a stud. If the Dodgers see him again, if Game 5 comes around and it's 2-2 and deGrom comes up again in Dodger Stadium Part 2, good luck. Dominant. And I'm sure that means Kershaw would go again anyway, and you'd see, him against Kershaw or Greinke, but good luck.
Kershaw's coming back.
Game 4?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We have to. I mean,
I mean, you're going to play 4 now because it's 1-1, so you're going to play at least 4. Yeah. I think you absolutely have to bring Kershaw back. We'll talk about Anderson in Game 3 in a minute.
And it's why they pitched Kershaw in Game 1.
Yeah.
Because he's more durable to come back on 3 days rest than Greinke is. So
yeah.
Where, you'll be able to bring Greinke back on regular rest, if you had pitches Game 5.
Because Greinke gets...
It's travel days.
You're right, because it's Monday and Tuesday, Games 3 and 4, and then day off Wednesday, Thursday is Game 5. So. All right, let's talk Game 2. Game 2, Dodgers win 5-2. Boy.
Dude, the Mets, they're just rich on pitching, rich on young pitchers, dude.
They are.
They roll that dude out there.
They are.
It's one thing for Aroldis Chapman to be throwing 100 miles an hour because he's only in there because he's jacketed up flamethrower. But have this guy, a starter. Unbelievable. Shocking.
Syndergaard did pretty well, all things considered. He sputtered kind of at the end, too. Probably wasn't quite as, at least statistically, dominant as Kershaw, but Syndergaard, Dodgers were reeling on him for a lot of the day, too. Although the Dodgers got a few doubles. Dodgers got 4 or 5 doubles and a couple of key doubles in this situation. Let's go to the inning everybody wants to talk about, though. Chase Utley, bottom of the 7th, Bartolo Colon comes on in relief. I saw a tweet. I don't know a ton about the Mets and Colon, obviously, because we don't watch the Mets as much as we watch the teams to cover. And I don't remember who it was. It was a New York beat writer who said, Colon turned down relief opportunities with multiple teams, and he's in relief in the playoffs coming out of the bullpen with the Mets now. He either really loves Terry Collins or he really believes in what the Mets are doing, or both. So kind of interesting. Colon's not at a place in his career where he has to pitch in relief.
Yeah.
He's a serviceable 5th starter. He's 100 years old. He's made a ton of money. He's not here for anything but pure enjoyment of the game at this point.
Yeah. He's a serviceable 4-star.
Yeah.
And, I think the guy's going to be that and pitch until he's about 46.
Why couldn't he?
And then he could hang on as a setup man for 3 or 4 more years.
Why couldn't he?
Yeah,
it's
Jesse Orosco pitched for the Mets when he was 47.
It's so ironic that one of the guys who's in the worst shape, like we have any room to talk, who's in the worst shape in all of baseball, is the one who's going to play till he's 50 years old.
Yeah.
Because the last one, Julio Franco, remember the hitter Julio Franco, played forever, still playing in Mexico or somewhere professionally. That dude's cut. He's in great shape. He's 50 and he looks like he's 20. Bartolo Colon's the opposite, and he's just going to pitch forever.
It just goes to show you, kids, you got to test out those white blood cells, all right? Lead an unhealthy lifestyle, charge those up, and they'll serve you well.
Genetics. His career, when he does retire, the retrospective look back in reverse chronological order on his career is going to be something. He's been a lot of places. He's done a lot of things. I mean, Cleveland, obviously.
Boston.
But he's something. New York, Oakland, he's been everywhere. Okay, let's talk about the play everybody wants to talk about. Colon is the preface to it because Colon was pitching. The ground ball, Chase Utley breaking up a double play at second. What is your take on Chase's interesting slide?
Dirty slide.
I agree, 100%.
I mean, it's all good going in hard and all that stuff, but he didn't begin his slide until he was level with the second base bag.
I'm not even sure it was a slide. It was a tackle.
Yeah, it was a tackle. It was like a slide tackle, like in soccer, where you go in, you don't get any ground at all. You just go in the air and just attack the guy's legs. But that was sad to see. I'm all, like I say, I'll go very hard. But I mean, you have to start a slide earlier than he did. So I hope that doesn't, there isn't a ring now around second base that is you have to start your slide, before you hit the ring. Something
like the half circle in basketball right under the basket. That's an interesting idea. I hope they don't do that.
I hope so too.
Here's the thing. There's a couple things. First off, let me say this. Neither one of us on this panel gives a damn about the Mets. So calling Utley's slide dirty as hell, which it was,
is objective.
Even if it's not objective, it's not biased towards the Mets. I don't care about the Mets.
Yeah.
In fact, if you held a gun to my head, I'd pick the Dodgers way ahead of the Mets.
Right.
I can't stand New York, and I know you can't either. It's looking at what is good for baseball, and what is good for baseball is hard baseball. You want to play hard, that's great. But what is not good for baseball is when a guy breaks his damn leg in the playoffs in a key situation, deflates everything that's going on in that game because this sideshow controversy, because you're not playing the game the right way. You injure a young guy. I know it's not a huge star. It's not Tulo. It's not Derek Jeter. It's not Xander Bogaerts. But you injure a young guy who's important to a team. You ruin a team's playoff chances in a crappy way, in a weird thing. A couple thoughts, I guess. It's a dirty slide. It's a bad play. Utley's not the first to do it. He's not going to be the last. Mm-hmm. It's not this controversy is not Utley's fault. This play was, but the whole controversy is, everybody does it on every team.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Rule 6.01 parentheses 6. Let me read you this rule.
Oh yeah, I got that one. That's I don't know.
In the judgment of the umpire, a base runner willfully and deliberately interferes with a batted ball or a fielder with the obvious intent to break up a double play. The ball is dead. The umpire shall call the runner out for interference and also call out the batter runner because of the action of his teammate. In no event may bases be run or runs scored because of such an action by a runner. That's in the rule book. That hasn't been enforced in 40 years, at least. If you're going to put it in the rule book, it's like the strike zone. If it's going to be what it says in the rule book, enforce it. Right. And if it's not that, change it. Take it out. That's, I think, where baseball gets confusing for kind of casual fans. It's like, wait a second, so this is a rule, but it's more of an unwritten rule that you don't enforce, and the guy just kind of has to be within reaching distance of the bag, but he can maybe throw up an elbow, but if he throws up a cleat, that's too much. Yeah. But like, wait a second, Well,
it's also like in this day and age, it's kind of like, do you want the ump to enforce this rule? Because there is a lot of kind of subjectivity that you're asking the umpire to base it on, and they've been trying to get away from that, to just make it a rules game, and like that's why we have replay. It's all about getting it right.
But this was non-replayable. That's the thing. This was a non-reviewable call. So it's like, wait a second. If you're going to get away from the subjectivity, I agree with you, and I disagree. I hate replay, but if you're going to do this, and this is where baseball's going, make these things. You can replay this, and those four umpires together watching a replay would have said, this is not cool. Right. You're out at first base. The inning is over. It's still a tie game. Who knows? Or it's still a Mets lead. Who knows what would have happened?
Yeah.
But go ahead.
By letter of the law there, does that mean because the throw, they said, kind of took him off the bag and therefore like the neighborhood play was off the table, is it off the table that he's trying to complete a double play?
I don't think so. I mean, maybe that's a good point.
Because are the rules different if it's just a force out? Or?
I still don't think so. Because the idea is willfully and deliberately are my keywords in that thing. And maybe I'm looking at it differently than you. That's a good point. But willfully and deliberately interferes. So in the Arizona Fall League last fall, 2014, they'll probably do this again this year. The Arizona Fall League has been kind of a proving ground for new rules. They did the pitch clock in the Arizona Fall League last fall. It went to the minors this year. It's going to probably come to the majors soon. Another rule they did last year was on every double play, no matter what, you had to slide directly into second base. Regardless of when you got there, regardless of your breakup intent, your foot had to go directly into second base. And if it did not go directly there, you were out. The guy running to first was out. I think that's another test rule for them that's going to come to the minor leagues next season and come to the majors, if not next year, then very soon after.
Yeah.
So I think a change is going to come, and it should.
Yeah, and it seems like the natural progression from switching the thing at home plate. If it's all about the safety of the players, when you're taking care of the catches with like not allowing guys to barrel ass over them or not allowing them to, block the plate until they have the ball and stuff like that. And you're going to take care of them, and they have full equipment. Yeah. You got to take care of the shortstop and the second baseman that might have a blind eye to a guy that's coming down bearing in on him, And
it's
with bad intentions.
And I think that's kind of the thing. And I know there's a gray area there, obviously, and Chris Guccione, the ump at second base, thought the gray area looked different than we thought it looked. So there's clearly a gray area. Yeah. But I look about what's good for the game, and what's good for the game is not Buster Posey getting barreled over, tearing up his frickin' knee. Say what you will about the Giants, and Dodgers folks hate the Giants. It is not good for the game when Buster Posey misses a year because of something that should have been preventable. They changed it, good. It is not good for the game that Tejada breaks his leg in the playoffs. What if that had been Xander Bogaerts in Boston, Carlos Correa in Houston? What if that had been one of these? What if it had been Corey Seager? What if it was flipped and somebody did this to Corey Seager? Dodgers fans would be ballistic, and they should be if this ever happened. It's not good for the game to see these young guys get injured on something stupid. You want to barrel into somebody and he flips over you and lands on his face when he's trying to convert a double play, as long as you're going into the bag and you slide, I'm with it. That's fine, man. Baseball's a tough sport. Right. But you want to go across the bag to start your slide, not even touch the base on the way, barrel into a guy before you hit the dirt and tackle him? I can't do it. And it doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter if it's Chase Utley or anybody else in this game. That's bad for baseball. Yeah. It's stupid. It takes attention away from the game, from what we should be talking about, because it was a key play in the game. The Dodgers scored 4 runs after it. Yeah. It takes attention away from the game. Nothing good comes of it. And here's the other thing. the Mets are going to retaliate. If the Mets don't retaliate Monday night with Matt Harvey, they're going to retaliate next year. So what happens if Matt Harvey goes inside on Adrian Gonzalez, something weird happens, and he breaks Adrian Gonzalez's wrist with a fastball? It's within the realm of possibility. You don't want to see anybody get hurt. You don't want to see somebody take a ball. Andrew McCutchen, I think it was last year, got hit in the ribs, broke a rib on a hit by pitch on somebody who was retaliating against the Pirates. Right. Well, do you want to see Jock Peterson or Corey Seager break a rib? You don't. And I know those things are relatively unlikely, but with as hard as guys are throwing nowadays, you never know. And weird stuff happens in baseball. Injuries like this are bad for the game. You get injured in the normal course of play. Hey, man, sports are a risk. I'm with it. I get it. Yeah. You get injured when somebody's doing something they shouldn't be doing. That needs to get punished.
I hear you. It's a sad state of affairs. Unfortunately, it comes on like the biggest stage of baseball, But I would find it hard to believe that the Mets would retaliate during this series. That's probably waiting until next year, unless, of course, they get up in the next game.
That's the thing. You never know.
8-0 early.
Yeah.
And his base is loaded, and Utley's up at the plate. Yeah, he's getting drilled.
Yeah, you never know. Or they retaliate differently. They don't retaliate by drilling a guy and putting somebody on in a 0-0 game, but that first double play with Corey Seager sitting at shortstop, with Howie Kendrick at second base, Howie head on a swivel, because that first guy is going to come in. And that's dangerous. I don't want to see Howie Kendrick get injured. I don't want to see Howie Kendrick or Seager, who had nothing to do with this, even roll an ankle and miss a couple games. That's stupid. That's really stupid. But something like that is going to happen because the Mets, as they should be, are mad as hell. And baseball's probably not going to do anything. I suppose they could. They're probably not going to do anything to Chase Utley, even without the injury. If Tejada hadn't broken his leg, I think you can't overreact and say, well, suspend Chase Utley for the rest of the playoff. Well, that's not going to happen. But, maybe a game off wouldn't be the worst thing. I don't know. I mean, I assume they're going to fine him probably. Retroactively, I would imagine. Maybe not.
I mean, it's definitely something that has to be addressed in the offseason because, that's going to be a hot topic. And, what has to happen for you to look hard at player safety? Does it have to be like the NFL where old players are shooting themselves in the chest so you can examine their head? But I guess that's a bad analogy.
I think it's a great analogy. I mean, it's extreme, but it's a great analogy. Yeah. Is everything in player safety, does it have to be so retroactive? Right. Or so many pitchers get hit in the head with comebackers. J.A. Happ had that scary incident with the Blue Jays a couple years ago. This happened to a lot of guys. But pitchers get hit in the head with comebackers, and then they're like, hey, let's try to put like Kevlar in their hats. Like, I commend you for what you're doing, but why does all this have to happen so retroactively? Why did it have to take Buster Posey and a couple of these catchers getting blown up before you said, gee, maybe they shouldn't just have free reign on catchers? Why do we have to have this before we even start talking about, you know what? Slide tackling somebody who's not watching at second base is probably a bad idea. Oof. I don't know. And the other thing that's weird about this, not to dwell, but let's dwell slightly, because it was a key play in the game. Chase Utley, not that Corey Seager would do this, but if a guy at Seager or Peterson's age and level had done this, a young guy, playoffs for the first time, nervous or excited or anxious or whatever, I'd be like, it's still terrible, but at least I understand that you're probably maybe slightly in over your head. Chase Utley's 30 what? Yeah. How many times has he been in the playoffs? He's won a World Series. Cool, calm, and collected, a veteran. Like, you know better than this. You know better than this on this stage. You know better than this in baseball. You yourself are a middle infielder. How would you react if you were at second base and somebody legitimately did that to you? And golden ruling it is kind of a dumb, treat others how you want to be treated. But how would you, that's the thing for Dodger fans. If you're a Dodger fan, how would you react if this happened to Corey Seager? You would flip the hell out.
Absolutely.
And you should. You'd have every right to. Oof. So I just... I hate siding with the Mets. I hate siding with the Mets, but it's a stupid play. It's dumb on a couple levels.
It is.
We were just delivering hot takes all day today.
Just overshadowing the fact that the Dodgers won one.
Well, and that's the thing. Overshadowing the next 3-4 hitters.
Right.
It was double city. And actually overshadowing that the Mets bullpen is just as bad as the Dodgers. If Bartolo Colon is your first line of defense, he faces one hitter. If Addison Reed comes out, boy, you and I have seen Addison Reed a lot in like Chicago with the White Sox, in Arizona with the D-backs. That is almost Jim Johnson level.
Oof.
He is not a great reliever. I'm sorry. Addison Reed has had some bad times.
But since he's been with the Mets, he's been done pretty effective.
He's done all right.
He's been pretty effective with them. So.
And for the Mets, it's funny, the parallel here. This was the time for Familia. You know, this was the inning. Bring in Familia in the 7th because this was your inning to win. You were ahead. You were up 2-1. Bring in Familia, shut down the 7th, let him throw the 8th, and then hope you can get somebody else to do the 9th.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I mean, this is all well and good. This is the way we want them to manage it, but they're not going to do something the whole way.
They won't, and that's the problem.
In the regular season,
but
and then switch it up in the postseason.
But they won't. But that's another, you know, we talk about retroactive injury stuff. That's how slow baseball is, and that's the way it is, and it's a historical game, obviously. But it's frustrating sometimes. You're like, the 7th is the inning to win. The 8th is the high-leverage inning. Put the best guy in right now. Besides the Rangers, and maybe they'll do it, maybe they won't. Besides the Rangers, I don't see anybody doing that for, 10 years? I mean, everything's slow.
Yeah. You got to kind of change the structure of the stats, like change what a save is.
Yeah.
Like make a hold and a save the same thing or something. Like if you
they can quantify a high leverage situation.
Yeah.
So many runs that you're ahead so late in the game and stuff. Can't you award, I don't know, a point system? Baseball loves keeping track of everything. Can you award a point system for high leverage outs?
Yeah. Because I want these good relievers to get their money, but not pout when you're asked to go in the 8th in a friggin' tie game, because it's a high leverage situation, because you're not going to be, it's a save situation. It's like, oof. So get them some type of point system, whatever, I'm all for it, where you can get a, good, an accurate, feel on what guys are effective and what guys aren't.
That's the save in and of itself. The save has only been a statistic for 4 decades? Something like that. And so they've retroactively gone back, of course, and given saves and said, on this box score in 1904, this guy earned a save. Mm. Well, they weren't keeping track of them then. So you can retroactively go back with these high leverage points and say, well, how good was Trevor Hoffman? How good was Rod Beck and Lee Smith? And, you'll find, and depending on how you do this, you'll find that the greatest closers ever are going to have similar high leverage scores. Dennis Eckersley is going to be insane in the high leverage thing because he was a guy who would go like 4 and 5 outs. Even more old school closers are going to be more insane if they're going 2 and 3 innings.
Yeah.
But I think you got to do something like that to incentivize it for the teams because they won't do it on their own. And I would rather see Familia when it matters and Kenley Jansen the night before when it mattered rather than saying, crap, Pedro Baez, oh well, get him tomorrow.
Yeah.
Hope we can rally. It's like, no, put your best reliever in now. I don't know. Maybe that's asking too much. I guess it's probably a little unrealistic. It's whatever.
And I mean, it's like we said before, it's not exactly this lineup has really been lighting on fire. I know they have good, stats as far as where they sit in the NL, as far as homers and stuff, but as far as hitting in the clutch, that comes and goes with this team. And who's to say if you bring in your closer in a high leverage situation in that next half inning, your team is going to put on a couple runs. But
if they do, even
ideally,
better. Yeah.
Well, that's ideally what you want.
Oh yeah.
Get out of the high leverage situation, get some insurance, and then you can bring in your setup guy to mop up the 9th for 6, 7, 8 in the lineup or whatever. But yeah, I mean, we're a ways away from seeing that. But Jeff Bannister. Oh boy, he's of that ilk.
You think the Rangers will do that?
Well, the thing that works in his favor is because they didn't really have a closer this year.
Yeah.
And Tollefson just got thrown into it.
Tollefson is in the Cy Young conversation on the fringes, but he's in that conversation.
Fringes, very fringe-like. But
I'd put him top 5. Wow. Maybe 5th, but I'd put him top 5 in the AL.
But yeah. Well, he didn't use him in a closer situation.
He did.
He came in with what's that kid's name? They got him in the Hamels deal.
Not Kella or whatever his name is, Kaloni Kella or whatever.
No,
it's the other guy.
No, it is. I don't know. It'll come to me.
It doesn't matter. It's the Rangers.
That's true.
Who might be in the World Series? That's my pick from the AL, my friend.
Me too, buddy.
Is it really?
Yeah, but my pick from the NL is already out.
Who was your pick from the NL? Pirates. Yeah. Not to be overshadowed because we've now overshadowed it for 40 minutes. Mm-hmm. Zach Greinke. Zach Greinke gives up 2 solo homers in the second inning. Phenomenal before and after and during. Listen, if you're going to do what you're going to do with a guy like Cespedes, give up a solo homer.
Right.
That a 1-0 does not burn you as much as 2 guys on base. It does not burn you as much as the David Wright bases loaded single.
When you attack the strike zone as much as him and put a premium on not walking guys like he does, you're going to give up some solo shots. It just happens. I mean, you gotta like what you're getting out of Zach Greinke.
Yeah,
you can give up a couple solo shots.
110 pitches, 70 strikes, no walks, 5 hits, 2 runs in 7 innings. He only struck out 8. I say that because the day before, DeGrom struck out 13, and Kershaw another 11.
11, yeah.
So he only struck out 8, but I mean, Greinke does what Greinke does. Not much else to say about that. He's phenomenal. Actually, it was good for him, though. As bad as Utley in that situation was in the 7th, good for Greinke. Not that the personal win matters, but it was good to see him get a win because he earned it and he deserved it. It didn't happen for Clayton the day before. So them scoring with Greinke as a pitcher record, I was like, hey, that's cool. Good for you.
And what's huge is Agon's getting that 2-run double.
Yeah.
That's huge. Because, I mean, this guy is their most professional hitter in the lineup, and he was kind of slumping a little bit.
And coming in with the back injury.
Get him going.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're going to need him going because of all the guys in the lineup, if you have a runner on second base, and you need a guy to knock him in, he's the one guy that's selected out of the lineup in order to get that done. So
yeah. Absolutely.
But looking forward to Game 3, or you still got some Game 2 stuff?
No, man, we're on Game 3. I will say this, couple shout-outs. Justin Turner, good Game 2. A couple doubles himself.
Absolutely.
And Chris Hatcher.
Loving Chris Hatcher's
2
performance
perfect
right now.
innings, throwing about 6 pitches an inning. Really efficient.
Yeah.
One of them, I know it didn't matter as much because it was in the loss, but the other one mattered a lot last night, Saturday night. So far, so good.
Yep, they may have found something there.
And that's what they thought they had. And they didn't. Like, he got injured during the year. He had a bad year. But he throws the ball real hard. He's another converted catcher like Kenley Jansen. Nice 2 innings for Chris Hatcher. Let's talk Game 3. Brett Anderson. What do you think?
Brett Anderson, Matt Harvey. I like that it's Brett Anderson. You know, Wiley veteran. He's had a good year. Kind of up and down towards the end. But I think he's going to battle. I'd like... What... Would you like to see any changes to the lineup here in Game 3?
I'd like to see Enrique Hernandez hit higher in the lineup.
Okay.
He hit 8th. He didn't start on Friday, if I'm correct, and he hit 8th on Saturday. I would like to see him, especially against Matt's the lefty, right? Or, excuse me, it's Matt Harvey, the righty.
Yeah.
Even so, I'd like to see Enrique Hernandez hitting 2.
Playing center?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would put Jock in there this next game.
Really?
It's not a big sample size, but versus Harvey, 2 for 5 and got a bomb. Here's some other guys that I might put in there for you, okay?
Okay.
The Phillies middle infield.
Oh.
Yeah. You know what? I know.
You're going to put Utley in New York the day after.
I sure am.
Okay.
And you know why? 6 for 18 with a bomb off of Harvey.
Really?
In his career. And J-Roll, put him in. I mean, Seager, let's you check out how the playoffs are on the road from the bench, first time. And J-Roll, he's not lighting the world on fire. He's only hit 263 with versus Harvey, 5 out of 19. But 2 out of those 5 hits, long ball. And, I like that kind of letting the veteran, kind of chill for a little bit, and then, boom, springing him in that away game. And those guys have played a number of games in Citi Field, a number of games versus the Mets.
That's true. And the Dodgers play for the long ball. So if you put in guys who hit home runs, who have a history hitting home runs, however many they are, off of Matt Harvey, that's interesting.
Then you have a Kiki to play with towards the end,
Yeah.
And, a Seager now, too.
I would... Seager hadn't done very much offensively.
1 for 8 so far.
Hit a double, I believe, in Game 1.
I think so.
With at least 2 or 3 strikeouts. So he's done what you expect a rookie to do in the playoffs.
Right.
I will say, though, you can make a case for Seager. I will say I got to start Howie Kendrick at second. I don't know, that's one of your mainstays. I know Agon is your guy. If you had to pick one guy in the lineup, it's Agon, and then maybe it's like Ethier in that hierarchy.
Yeah.
But Kendrick is up there. He's one of your mainstay consistent guys.
He is a good hitter. I mean, he hit pretty good this year, almost 300, 295, something along those lines. But, I do like Kendrick as a hitter.
When do you unleash the Puig?
This next game.
You put him in, too.
I got him in there, too. 3 for 5 with a double versus Harvey. So, I'm Ethier's on the bench. Actually, Ethier's probably in there.
And Crawford is on the bench?
And Crawford's on the bench. So Puig, would you put Puig in right and then Ethier in left? And I put Jock in center. Yeah. And I put the 2 Phillies in the thing, and then Turner and Agons with Ellis behind the plate. Boom. That's who you roll out.
You don't put Grandal behind the plate to catch Brett Anderson against a righty. You would do Ellis.
I just think Grandal can't hit the side of a barn right now. And, I think I like Ellis better as a receiver. So it's like, if this guy's hitting better and he's a better receiver, it seems like a no-brainer.
Citi Field, for what it's worth, is not a great offensive park. The Mets don't score anything in that park. Both teams have great pitching. This could easily... Brett Anderson's picking a good game to pitch only because the Mets offense isn't crazy to begin with, obviously. Yeah. They've had, 10 hits in 2 games. And the Dodgers haven't done much better. But it's a pretty weak offense in a pretty defensive, pitcher-friendly park. I think Brett Anderson do pretty well.
I kind of am feeling that too. And
do you think, how short will the leash be, though? If he gives up 2 runs in the first 4 innings, does Don Mattingly panic and bring in Bolsinger?
I don't hit the panic button at 2 runs in 4 innings.
Well, some guys do. I mean, you see the playoff games.
I mean, it depends, I guess, how they're... I mean, if they're squaring up balls left and right, and he's
or his command is off or something.
And, the outs he's getting are on line shots that hit at guys, then yeah. Or his command, yeah. But if they're scoring on, little bleeders and, singles and stuff, then, hang with the guy. Your offense got to win a game in this series.
Yeah. Goes without saying, Monday is a must-win game for both teams. Anybody going up 2-1 in a best-of-5, I mean,
It's true, but going into this series, we didn't think we were going to win any game that wasn't pitched by either Greinke or Kershaw.
That's true.
So this is that one game that is.
This is what's so important about that, because if you go down 2-1 after this, which is a very realistic possibility, you better be damn perfect with Greinke and Kershaw coming back, and you weren't the first time.
Yeah.
So
well, then it's really like you see what you got. Kershaw on 3 days rest, facing elimination. There is no bigger stage.
Yeah.
Go out and get it.
Do you like the 5 game in the NLDS, or do you wish it were 7?
I kind of like the 5.
It's fast. It's real fast.
I want them to change the 1 to a 2 out of 3, though.
Yeah.
I'm with that. And I like that building as you go on. 2 out of 3, 3 out of 5, 4 out of 7. I kind of wish they would do that in basketball.
Yeah.
Make the first thing for 2 out of 3, then 3 out of 5, then 4 out of 7, 4 out of 7. But I'd like to see that in hockey,
is it too much? This is crazy. And we've also talked about shortening the schedule and doing like 140. Is it too much to, real quick before we finish here, is it too much to do 2 out of 3 in the wild card, best of 5 division series, best of 5 championship series, best of 9 World Series?
Yeah.
I think it depends on the matchup. If it were Royals and Giants, I would watch a best of 9. But some years you're like, okay, let's just get this over with.
Yeah, I mean, there's something about Game 7 just rings true to me.
Yeah,
that I don't think Game 9 could ever. And I just keep it 7. Keep it 7. 4 out of 7's fine.
All right, just wondering. That's it for us. We're wrapping up here on Dodger Wrap 360. So here's the thing, real quick before we go. Next Sunday, I am out.
Cool.
We are going to be doing our next Dodger show on Tuesday. I believe that is October 20th. Let me check the date real quick.
Yes, that's correct.
It is Tuesday, October 20th. It is either going to be at 8 or 9 p.m. Pacific time. So if the Dodgers lose in the next 3 games at any point and the season ends, we're going to do a wrap-up on those 3 games and a full season wrap-up, look ahead to 2016, winter, blah, blah, blah. If they win, we're going to have a lot to talk about. We got those games to talk about. We'll have the next series and all that sort of stuff. But Tuesday, October 20th, either 8 or 9 p.m. Pacific time. You can follow us AfterBuzzTV.com. We'll have the schedule up every day, so if you check on Tuesday, you'll see the schedule. You can also follow me on Twitter at Bobby DeMuro. You can send me a tweet. You can be like, dude, when are you doing the show? And I will tell you when I know for sure, which will probably be tomorrow or Tuesday. But October 20, that's our next day. That's our next show. Thank you, Mike. Last thoughts? Don't say free Tom Brady. Don't say free Tom Brady.
No, I mean, let's get some runs for Brett Anderson.
Keeping it professional. I like it.
That's
all right.
it.
That's it this week on Dodger Wrap 360. If you haven't already, hit subscribe on YouTube and iTunes. Comment on YouTube. We'd love to talk to you guys about the Dodgers, and we'll see you in 9 days, October 20th, for our next show. See you guys.
Yeah.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.